Today, guys, we wanted to talk about the year in review. We wanted to just reflect on 2020 as we come to the closing of this year. We wanted to kind of reflect on what's the year been like for us. And we hope you chime in and comment and just let us know what your year has been like. We also wanted to kind of give you guys some history of what the Daniel Fassa Bridge to Healthy Living year has looked like as well, because the Daniel Fassa Bridge to Healthy Living was actually birthed in 2020. And so we wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes of how this came about from both of our perspectives, and go from there. So yeah, so that's our topic for today, the year in review. Yeah, we're gonna kick it off because, guys, I don't know about you, but 2020, I went into 2020 kind of ecstatic, like this is the year, it's 2020, it's the year of all, it just seemed like the year of new beginnings. It just really seemed like, I don't know, just really exhilarating. A lot of it was about 2020 vision. That's it. It was like this 2020 vision concept. And so it was almost like you were going to get a lot of insights. You were going to be able to see things clearly. And honestly, guys, I feel like I've gotten a lot of vision out of 2020. It's just not the way that I expected it to be. And so, like everybody else, we were blindsided, of course, by COVID-19. I was planning a vacation to Costa Rica for a surprise for my husband. And so I was in the trenches of that. And COVID-19 just intersected out of nowhere and pretty much changed all of our lives. Yeah, pretty much historically. I mean, everybody could probably work with that. Like, where were you when you realized this COVID-19 thing was going to take us over, because I remember a point of hearing about it in December during the Christmas holidays and saying, oh, that's interesting what's going on over there in China, it was just something that seemed so out there, and before we knew it, here we were, COVID-19, and we're in a state of lockdown right by March, right, Gigi?
Yeah, that's right. So I was around this time last year, I was really excited because I had just finished publishing my last blog post on my website about a woman who had multiple health conditions and how she completely turned her life around with a whole food plant-based diet. And I remember sending that out, kind of wrapping up the year. And then I was also in the midst of getting ready to open up my fitness studio here in Washington. In February, I think it was, when the first case was identified, and even the first death of COVID in Washington State was
that's your state, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like people were just walking around like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What does this mean? And of course, we were quickly shut down. I would say by the middle of March, the governor said, all fitness centers and other places, basically had to shut their doors. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, what does this mean? I was kind of in a lull for about a week or so and just kind of figuring out, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was in a funk. It's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
And so I started a YouTube channel. That's kind of the first thing I did. I started a YouTube channel, and partly to kind of help keep my clients staying active. And so I was making videos for them. And then I started saying, I'd love to interview Dr. Joel Furman on, immune health. And so I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, would you be on my YouTube channel? And so he's like, sure. So it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you tell the story of kind of how we met.
So guys, so here it is. It's kind of like this, you don't realize you're doing it, but you're kind of getting into this pivot stance, you know, because now what you're normally used to, I had just really started getting some traction on doing this kitchen overhaul where I was going into people's homes to overhaul the kitchen. And so that's where I was ready to go full steam ahead with. And I was stopped in my tracks as well. And so I started to say, you know what, maybe I could do more lives, because I was never really a live person in terms of videos and things. I would do the podcast, but I would not be doing lives. And so I was kind of more open to doing more lives. And I got an email, and I think, and I guess we should kind of talk a little bit more, because what was happening here though is that here we are, we're in COVID-19, social distancing became a thing. You know, they started to release a whole bunch of like statistics. Every week they were coming out with a new thing about what COVID-19 was about, because we didn't know anything about it. And one of the things that they came out with was the idea that those who were suffering from a chronic health condition actually had more dire outcomes if they contracted COVID-19. And so this really piqued my curiosity, and I think it did as the same for Gigi as well. And then one of the other layers to that is that not only was if you had a chronic health disease, but then they started to pull back and said, listen, marginalized communities, the Black community was even more affected. They were dying at a higher rate because of the link, again, to the higher rates of chronic health issues and among other things. And so here we are, we're sitting in the middle of this. And you got to remember too, we were having a social crisis. We had the George Floyd, and there were social things going on. And so you're in this middle of this whirlwind of everything that's going on. And so Gigi, I think on her side, started to do a little bit of writing articles. She had somebody write an article about COVID-19, the Black community, ways to kind of overcome that. And I was doing some things on my side as well, trying to grapple with what was this about, because I really felt like this whole chronic health issue and being linked to higher deaths in COVID-19, it's almost like I felt like, wait a minute, it's like everything has risen to the surface. Like if there's ever a time to take charge of your health, it's now. And so I got an email, and they were looking to collaborate to, you know, get on a podcast or just kind of conversate about these issues. And so I was like, yeah, this sounds perfect. And so we ended up doing a collaboration together, Alyssa, Gigi, and myself, and we were discussing the issues of COVID-19 and chronic health issues and marginalized communities. And we really had a really good connection and conversation about this issue on a live. And then Gigi invited me to be on her YouTube channel, the famous YouTube channel that she's doing. And so I decided to do that. And so Gigi could take it from there.
Yeah. What I wanted to do is share her story, because we both were so transformed by just changing what was on the end of our fork, that we just felt this passion and need to try and help other people. We didn't know at that point when we were doing the YouTube video, we didn't know what that was going to look like.
Right.
But we just knew that, you know, when you share other people's stories, it really helps people to kind of take stock, you know, where they're at, you know, where they're at in their life, with their food, with their diet, with their health. And so after I interviewed Sersie and published the video on YouTube, I realized, you know, I want to create a blog article to go along with this, because there's some really good information here, you know, with what she shared on the video. And the video, by the way, is what's in the course. You know, it's in the first section of the course. But so when I reached back out to Sersie, I said, hey, Sersie, do you know anyone? And I was secretly hoping she would say it. She would say, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, do you know anyone that could write a blog article for me on the Daniel fast? And so she said, well, I do, what's your timing? And
Yeah.
I was real flexible on the timing, and
Yeah.
I kind of went out like, oh, a couple weeks from now or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And so of course I was like,
Mhm.
ching ching, all right,
Mhm.
this is
Yeah.
awesome. So Sersie, I'll turn it back over to you in
Yeah.
terms of your
Yeah. And so when I got this, and there's a little bit of backstory to this without getting too deep, but I had originally, um, I had did a sermon at my church on the Daniel fast, and I really felt like God was really calling me to do something with the Daniel fast. And so at the time when I had did the sermon at my church and I had led my church to do this entire Daniel fast, I wasn't sure. So I felt like perhaps it's going to different churches and helping them to do it. But there was this seed of the Daniel fast that just kept gnawing on me over the years that I just couldn't shake. And so there was, my life got busy, things got hassled, and so I kind of put it on the back burner, but it was always there. It was like the Daniel fast, the Daniel fast, the Daniel fast, and I was just like, okay, okay. So when Gigi emailed me back to do the article, I was like, you know what, I could do the Daniel fast because I've been wanting to do things with churches. I still wasn't clear what was going on yet, and I said, I could do this. So I did the Daniel fast article, and I sent it back to her. Um, and then Gigi liked the article, and then maybe I don't even know if it was a week later, she had an unction, and I guess you could talk about it a little bit more. And she emailed me back and she said, "There's something about this
yeah.
article that I feel could help people. I feel it could be a program to help people, especially now in COVID-19." And she emailed me back. She said, "Would you be open to collaborating on this and exploring this idea?" And within a second, because it was almost like when she said it, that that Daniel fast that had just been luring around me for years was just like, that's it. And I was just like, yes. I didn't even think. I wrote the thing back so quickly because it was already there. I just told my dad, yeah, I will. Within seconds, like if you look at the email, it's like I didn't even like
I know.
give it like a few hours. Like,
It
oh,
was,
I deliberated and looked over this. I just said, yeah, because I knew it was the right thing. I felt like this was it. It was like I didn't even
yeah,
really consciously know what I was doing, but it was like, that is it. Like all that time you were doing the Daniel fast, something in me said, this is it. This is what I was
yeah,
trying to have you do for the Daniel fast, but it's
yeah,
for such a time as this. And so I said yes. And so
right.
we then got together um, and
Yeah, and
began
this is
to
June. This is in June, by the way.
end of
We
June at
should
that,
mention that
closer
this
to
was in
July.
June.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
it
is
was
the
the end.
end of June.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay,
And yes, it's the end of June. We're
okay.
heading right into July, like in the following week. And we set up this collaboration where we were going to meet once a week to outline what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. But the irony in all of this, and I'll put it back to Gigi, is that I had this seed that God had planted in me for so long. And God just took one planting into Gigi to say, this was the course, this was the program. Do you see what I'm saying? And then they both connected because what made her see in that? I wrote the
Mhm.
article, sent it back, never clued into me, but it took her to do it. And then when they both came together. And so we started meeting once a week from there. And then the rest is history, which we'll get into a little bit more with you guys.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just to add a little more illustration behind
Yeah,
this exchange that we had. I
yeah,
was on my bike. I was on a bike trainer working out, and I just sent her an email from my bike, and I was like, okay, I'm sure I'll probably get something back from her later tonight or tomorrow or something.
yeah,
And that response came back so quick.
yeah,
And then I was like, and so we were going back and forth, and I'm still on the bike, and I'm like, okay, I'll send you a Zoom invite after I get off the bike. I mean,
yeah,
we went back and looked at the email
yeah.
this past weekend, and it was just hilarious to see how it all just kind of fell into place so quickly and so seamlessly, like
Yeah,
God was intervening that this was supposed to happen.
yeah,
And so yeah, so we were, as Sersie said, meeting once a week, and um throughout basically July, and then we said towards the end of July, we said,
Yeah.
let's start a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Wasn't
So
that
we
at the
start
end
the
of July?
Facebook group because that way we could start to kind of build the community and kind of have, expose people to this idea and passion that we had to basically combine whole plant foods with faith. And
Mhm,
so we were figuring it out because that's how there was a need there and there was a community there that we knew, and so we decided to start the Facebook group. And as we were building the program, we outlined it, we did it, we decided, in the middle of it, we're like, why not just do a 4-day challenge
mhm,
to kind of wet everyone's feet to kind of get an idea of what it's like as we're building this course. And if we could have the course done by the end of the year, and mind you guys, we're putting a lot of time, hours, like we're meeting once a week and then we're going back and we're spending hours upon hours. This was like in the trenches, uh, you know a lot of work that we put into this, put it that way. And so we did the 4-day challenge. And I think a lot of people really love the 4-day challenge, but check how God works. I want to put this caveat in there too, for two things. One, when Gigi was on the bike and she got that unction to say that, I want to say this too, because sometimes God will give you um, greatness in the mundane, right? You're just riding your bike, you're just walking
mhm,
to school, you're just whatever. And he could drop something of his purpose and greatness, even in those moments
mhm,
where you're thinking, well, it wasn't anything grandiose. I wasn't, no,
mhm,
and this is about just being obedient. And when you hear it, just act on it. Gigi just acted on it. She could have been like, that's crazy, I'm not even gonna do
mhm,
that. And that could have cut off the spirit of God right there. So that's number one. And then number two, even when God gives you the mission, don't be stuck to your own agenda, because we had to revise this thing to meet God's plan
mhm.
and not our plan. So we went into this thing, we were like,
Yeah.
you know what? Let's not overdo this thing. We could space this thing out strategically over the next 6 months and get it done. And we had all these deadlines that were way, way into the future. But
Mhm,
when we did the 4-day challenge and people rose up and they started to say, listen, I just did the 4-day challenge. Now what? I don't want to go back and then have to, we were saying they were going to go back and then come back and yeah. And so
yeah.
it, it didn't make sense. So you could go from there.
Yeah. We're like, oh, that's not gonna work. That's just not help. Well, it's not serving the purpose that, we had to create this. And so we just said, you know what, we're just gonna be smart and we're gonna work hard and we're gonna get
Yeah.
this done. And
Yeah.
so we were recording our lectures
Hmm.
like the week before we would release them.
Yeah.
And um and so I can remember, Sersie would send me her lecture recording. I
Hmm.
was in my studio doing my videos,
Yeah.
and we were just like, and then we were doing some joint videos together,
Yeah.
and we were just like, we're going to do this because people need this information,
Yeah.
especially right now.
Right
And
now.
so
Right.
so we
Yeah.
were, I mean, working some really
Yeah.
long hours to
Yeah.
get the content. And then along the way, it was like other things just started to come up,
Yeah.
like we were getting feedback about um, our inner critic, and that being a
Hmm.
barrier. Hey, I know what to do. I'm a faithful person, but there's this voice that is gnawing at me, this narrative, this critic.
Hmm.
And so we were just working one morning, and I was emailing Sersie, and then I got this video link um, to an interview of someone who was going to be at a conference, a virtual
Hmm.
conference that I was planning to attend. And his name is Dr. Mark Ferris. And
Hmm.
I said, Sersie, watch this video. It's like
Yeah.
13 minutes. But at the
Yeah.
very end of the video, he talks about this connection between like theology and health.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can remember, I just practically jumped out of my seat. I was just so excited to hear this. And
Yeah.
so we reached out to him, and he agreed for us to talk with him. And then we partnered again because we had a specific need. We had, you were telling us, I
Mm-hmm.
have this inner critic and it's keeping me from, taking control of my health and achieving my health goals. And
Exactly.
it's a long video, but if you just take the time to listen to it, he really does help you to better understand kind of why you feel the way you do. And understanding why, I think, is one of the first key steps to then addressing it, to taking action to address that barrier so that can achieve those health goals that you seek out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like these other things were happening, is my point. It was like, do you want to talk about a prayer for your health and how we were having trouble with
Yeah.
the
And
Zoom?
so the minute I think the minute we were okay with just being obedient with the flow of this thing, more things started to come to us.
Yeah.
Because the minute we gave up the idea that we were going to extend this way into deep December in the middle of COVID, when I believe this program is for such a time of this in the middle of COVID, because being spiritually aligned with your health now is so important than any other time. And so I was sitting down one day, and this was, I think, before the group, and I distinctively heard God say, a prayer for your health. Go live and do a prayer for your health. And I was like, I don't know about going live or like this, I just didn't connect the dots to that. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I went on my personal IG and I did this flyer for prayer for your health. And I went and did it for that one time. But it wasn't until we really started kind of moving in the flow of the group and everything that it was like, I got this unction that the prayer for your health is for the Daniel fast in the group. And so we started to say, we are going to start to pray for everyone's health once a week. And so that's how that developed. And then it kind of piggybanked into the actual journal that we created, which is a prayer for your health. And it even adapted into the 4-day challenge. So this prayer for your health took a life of its own because, again, I didn't understand it when I heard a prayer for your health, just go on IG and do it. But then it made sense because that was going to be the model for what we were going to do in the Daniel Fast program.
I,
And yeah.
I want to also add that there's
Oh, yeah.
another story, there's a backstory to something else that I have to share. So we did our first prayer for your health in September. I remember it was September 11th.
Yeah.
And we had trouble. We were so late coming on because we were having trouble with Zoom connecting with Facebook to go live like we're doing right now. And so I think we were like maybe 15, 20 minutes late with
And it
starting
happened
that.
like 2 or
Well,
3
so when
times.
October rolled around, yeah. And then we did it again in October, same thing, same problem. We're like, this is weird. Every other time we're on Zoom and we go live, we don't have this problem. What is keeping us from going live? We started thinking like, what's going on? Like, and so I said, or I don't know who came up with it. I think I said we should like test it out in another way. And so we said, and then I think you came up with the idea of doing like a girls' night in kind of thing, just something random.
Just to
We
see,
were like,
same
this is,
night, same
and
place,
honestly, we
same
had known,
time.
yeah, we were just like, it was like so random. Like it was honestly that whole cook and chat girls' night in thing was only to test Zoom with Facebook. That was our intention with that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we had this idea like,
Epiphany.
oh, I
Yeah.
think people would like us to do this,
Yeah.
And so we did it, and then Cersei's like, well, what are you gonna make? I was like, oh, I'll just make these poppers. My mom loves them. And
Yeah.
so and then you're like, oh, I'll just make a mocktail. And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, what are we gonna
And it
call it?
worked,
Cook
guys.
and
It
chat,
worked.
girls'
And
night
there was
in.
no technical difficulty. So we knew, because I was like, if if it works, then I know that we have to put in reinforcements for a prayer for your house, because there's something there that's kind of, you know what I mean? So that was what the Cove thing was about. So, and then Girls Night In was birthed. And so, yeah. And so the more we were doing, the more we were giving, the more we were getting feedback, is the more we were just trying to be of value. And I think I wanted to say this. I think Gigi on her side, we both, coming from our backgrounds, we had empathy for people dealing with chronic disease to begin with. So that
Right.
seed was already planted with us. Gigi is a plant-based nutritionist. I've been doing that more on the health coaching side. And so this has always been our passion. But check it out. When COVID-19 hit, we went from empathy that we've always had, and I believe we shifted into a radical empathy. It was different. It was a radical empathy, different from the standard. And I think that is where God showed up, because he realized, he gave us this unction to say, there was a radical, you have to do something. You can't sit on the sidelines. And even not even sit on the sidelines, because we were never ones to sit on the sideline in that moment. But it was like, you need to rise to the occasion. So COVID-19 is this high. You need to meet people this high with something. And so that is the Daniel Fast, the Bridge to Healthy Living. We really, really from the bottom of our hearts feel that it's one answer to the issues that we're facing right now. Because when you combine your spirituality, your faith, to the most important stewardship that you have, which is your health, and you combine those two, it's like a miracle in the making. We're convinced that the Daniel fast is for such a time as this. It wasn't something that we ever woke up with. It was something that was given to us. And so that is why we're so excited about this mandate, because it's different from all the other mandates. Gigi has her own private mandates. She told you about her personal training and this and that. I had my own personal mandate, but together this one is special, because we really believe that it is for such a time as this concept. And people are open, people are vulnerable more than they've ever been now with COVID-19. They're willing to face the tough questions about their health now. And I think that is what we've kind of struggled with. I think we were living in a culture prior to that where health, you could take it or leave it. But I honestly believe now that the soil has been tilled, and we're ready to talk about those tough questions, and we're willing to face the tough answers, I think.
Yeah. And it's at a time where it really is a wake-up call,
That's
and
it.
it's that wake-up call. And and you hear about what's happening with the hospitals being overwhelmed, and you probably know someone who's been stricken with COVID and possibly had complications, even death. And when you hear about the statistics and the data on that linkage between complications and with COVID and comorbidities, you can't help, you have to acknowledge that that link, is there, and that, you have to then ask yourself, well, is there something I can do to reverse or prevent or address it? And so that's what we want. We want to give you that option, to take a look at it. If you're eating that standard American diet, and that, you're struggling with your health, and you're praying for your health, that this program is designed for you. I mean, it is specially designed for you. And we hope that, and we've been doing a lot. We've rolled out the course, but we've been making improvements to it. Like I said, we've got some new content that we're going to be releasing soon. We've got a recipe ebook, the journal that Sersie mentioned, and other, videos and content that will hopefully help be a resource for you to be successful, not just in terms of just getting through the fast, but using it as a launch pad or jumping
Right.
off point to a long-term
A bridge.
sustainable
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's why we
Yeah.
call it a bridge. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And um, yeah, just giving you those tools, guys. And what better way to do it than to do it where you're getting all that rich information. Like if you haven't seen Gigi by now, she's like a nutritional geek, as you guys know, as you guys have already seen. And so all of that nutritional geek is in the course. She is
Yeah.
thorough. She covers it. You know, how to eat, what to eat to nourish your body on this fast. And what better way to get all of that information that many times we're so bombarded with this diet, that diet, this
Mhm.
diet, you know, where it's like it's so hard to get the real facts, you know, nutritionally,
Mhm.
scientifically sound facts. And so the Daniel
Mhm.
Fassa Bridge to Healthy Living, I'm so proud of it because it's something that is just grounded from the nutritional side is grounded in scientific research and science and what really truly works, not a fad diet.
Yep.
And then it taps into you allowing to use God, your best ally, to help you
Mhm.
through this. And so you have this mix that sometimes you'll do a Weight Watchers, but then you don't pray about it. And then sometimes you're in the church and you just praying about your health 24/7, but you don't have no tools to figure this thing out. The awesome thing
Yeah.
about this is that you are getting exactly both. You no longer are you just going to pray for your health and you don't have tools to take action, or no longer do you have to leave God out of your health journey and miss out
Yeah.
from your greatest ally to overcoming our issues with health. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, when I talk about it, I just get excited because it seems like, yeah, that makes sense, but a lot of times you just don't see it. You either see them very separated. And yeah, I'm
Mhm.
just proud to be a part of it. Honestly, like we're part of the co-founders of it, but we're proud to be a part of the movement in of itself, even as part of
Yeah.
the co-creators, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we're super grateful that you're a part of the
Yes.
community as well, um, because, and your engagement, when you're posting,
Yeah.
kind of your goals for the year and all of that helps. It helps us. It helps the other people in the group,
Yes.
because it inspires them. It helps us make sure we're on the right track with providing the content that you
Hmm.
desire and that you need to be
Yeah.
successful. So
Yeah.
keep doing that and invite
Yeah.
others, family, friends, coworkers, other church members to
Yeah.
join this group because we welcome them. We'd love to have them.
Yeah. And we love your feedback, guys, because a lot of it is based on you guys, you
Yeah.
know, getting your feedback, hearing what your needs are, and we are able to adapt things to actually meet your needs. That's the wonderful thing is that we're always open and we're always listening and we're always trying to raise the bar. And so this is just the
Mhm.
beginning, guys, for the Daniel Fassa Bridge to Healthy Living. And we are, like Gigi says, we are ecstatic to have you on board and have you as part of this movement to change lives in this way. So if you've studied the book of Daniel, we want to go into 2021 to eat and pray like Daniel. I know Gigi had her shirt on the other day, but really it's the truth because Daniel is a model of prayer. He's a model of taking a stand for, his health, all of that. And so one of the goals is going into 2021 to eat and pray like Daniel. And so that is one of the mandates and the mission is to hopefully that we could excite you, that this is something exciting, that we could kind of stimulate that challenge in you, that says, you know what, I can do this, I will do this. And listening to the voice of God. because he spoke to us to create the program. And I know without a shadow of doubt that if he spoke to us to create this program, he's speaking to people to do it. And so
Yes.
it's this wonderful synergy that we're just excited about what God has for you, what God has for us, what God has for this movement. That really transcends culture, language, all the barriers, right? It really does. It's really just simply saying that you can eat real food, you can invite God into your health journey, and combining those two things can change the trajectory of your health. That doesn't have, that goes beyond barriers. So